we start, what are your thoughts on the Ukraine crisis right now? What is Joe Biden stop? Just start with that question. What are your thoughts on the Ukraine crisis?
I would like to pick up a theory of international relations that you mentioned. So I believe it's the realist theory, although I'm not entirely sure. But it's the idea that a nation exists. It's very it's very realistic, right? People are always going to be selfish.
Right.
Nations are always going to act in their own self-interest. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing, right? You can be allied with a nation and you have the same self-interest. Sounds great. Or you can have two completely different interests and be mortal enemies. But just that kind of idea that America needs to act in its own self-interest is very interesting with regards to like Ukraine and Taiwan and like everything we're about to talk about. So I just wanted to
little sneak peek for you guys.
Yeah. An underlying theory.
The realist theory, yeah.
So I listen to Ben Shapiro a lot. I really like how he thinks and how he lays out stuff. But he talks a lot about how Joe Biden has done nothing to stop aggression. So what has Joe Biden done concerning Ukraine? And then how well, let me go ahead and read this background.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
According to the Congressional Research Service, quote, the United States has been a leading provider of security assistance to Ukraine, particularly since Russia launched its renewed and expanded invasion of Ukraine on February 24th, 2022. From 2014, when Russia first invaded Ukraine, through February 27th, 2023, the United States has committed about $34 billion in security assistance to help Ukraine preserve its territorial integrity, secure its borders, and improve interoperability with NATO. Of this amount, the Biden administration has committed more than $31.7 billion in security assistance since the start of the war in 2022, unquote. So, that being said, we just discussed how we won't protect our own border, but we're funding billions and billions of dollars, more than it would cost to protect our own border, to build a wall, to fund somebody else's border. And we've been sending tanks. I think we sent tanks, right?
Yeah, we sent missiles.
Poland?
We've sent a lot of missiles.
We've sent a lot of stuff. I think Poland's sending like aircraft or something like that.
They're all the European nations are doing way less than we have. They've contributed about $2 billion, but so we're definitely the clear supporter of Ukraine during this time.
So that being said, why are politicians so eager to support Ukraine's border but not our own?
I think I want to back up the question again. Why does Ukraine matter to the United States?
Okay, that's a good question.
Sorry, I don't want to steal your thunder.
No. That's a good question to start with. I like starting out with the basics and working our way.
I asked the question, so Keegan, any thoughts?
Ukraine, why does it matter? I mean, it's not a NATO nation. It's not a NATO ally. They've tried to become a part of NATO for years, and
good reason.
With good reason, because they had the crisis that happened in where was it? Crimea. Yeah, and then they had a lot of other problems that have happened in that region. And essentially, the United States has an agreement with them. I mean, it wasn't any like solid written down agreement, but we were like, yeah, we'll help you out in a time of need if you need us. And I mean, it wasn't anything set in stone, obviously. But I feel like, we as Americans can unite under a purpose. Again, if it's against Russia, if it gets against Putin. So they painted the framework of Putin being this horrible guy and how he is killing all of these innocent civilians and all of these innocent people, and Ukraine and a lot of their people are dying because of Russia. And they're like, we need to do something about this. Now, our American instinct is like to protect. So with a country that has similar values, maybe not the same, but with similar values, we want to protect that democratic nation. Mm-hmm. So I think it's more of a symbolizing that we are going to protect other democratic nations because we are all, although we might not have a treaty altogether, we are all under the same ideology in a certain sense.
So it has the ideological importance, but it also has a geological importance, right?
I would say that geologically...
It's a former member of the Soviet Union, right?
Yes.
So Russia kind of claims it as core territory.
Definitely, yeah.
and they have like convoluted war claims that go back to the 900s.
Yeah.
But essentially, it matters to Putin.
Yeah, it
or
does.
it matters to, I don't know if it matters to Russia as a whole, but it matters to the Russian government that they get this back. And so Ukraine remaining independent is kind of like, I don't know, a thorn in the side. So, sorry, you're saying something about geology?
No,
Or
so
geographic,
yeah.
not geology, that's rocks.
So about the rocks in Ukraine, they're actually really interesting.
Rocks in Ukraine, best thing ever.
Oh my gosh, we love the rocks. They're just so sparkly and.
Defend Ukraine's rocks.
Especially the rocks that are, a yellowish color and are very malleable. We need to take that first. It's gold if you guys didn't catch it. So I feel like it's a really important. It's definitely important for Putin to take back that territory, but I also feel like it's a statement that the United States isn't going to move in that area in terms of like the EU and the United Nations as a whole. Like, we're supporting, obviously America the most, but the United Nations is supporting Ukraine during this time because, like, what if Ukraine were to fall?
United Nations or the European Union?
I would say
NATO or
it kind of like all collaboratively, because there's been funding from other countries besides the EU, right?
kind of like a democratic bloc.
Yeah,
Bloc's the wrong word, but a democratic front.
Yeah, so we're supporting Ukraine right now because we don't want that to spread. Because once they take Ukraine, then what do they want? They probably want another territory that goes back to the 700s. Hey, I had Poland back then, I had like 13 troops over there. Like, what the heck, man? That's mine now.
There was a dude standing in a field there once. He had a Russian flag on him.
And it's a good thing that what is it? It's a good thing that that Ukraine wasn't a part of NATO, because if they were, then what would it? It would trigger Section 32 or something, some section of the UN code or of the and essentially then NATO, and then we'd have to protect them, and it's, I don't know, we'll protect them in forms of troops or other means, but we've been trying to protect them up until now, and I feel like we've done a good job with that, but I just feel like it is not, I don't know. You guys we can discuss this, but do you think it's our place to be the world's police in every single scenario? Like, I see the geological importance, I see the diplomatic importance, but like there's got to be a certain point to where we just step back and say, hey, like, this is no longer our fight. This is no longer our battle. Like, EU, this is y'all. This is what you guys have to deal with. This is your region. Like, there's a point when we have to stop trying to police everything in the world, and we have to focus on us as Americans and focus on the problems that we have. What was the realist ideology? Was that what you called it?
You're combining it a little bit with like internal, like pivoting back towards America, right? Rather than out into the world. I would agree with you in principle, right? The U.S. doesn't need to stop every conflict everywhere. That'd be a mess.
Yeah.
It doesn't always matter, right? Like, if two countries go to war, we're not trading with either one of them, and they don't threaten the U.S. at all, then we should be like, yeah, war is a bad thing.
So
we don't like this.
I can build on that point. According to the OEC, in 2021, Ukraine exported $1.6 billion to the United States. The main products that Ukraine exported to the United States were pig iron, which was $835 million. So
they're not
that big of a deal when it comes to trade. So there's two reasons you would want to stop Russia from invading Ukraine. One would be some type of financial aspect, which obviously is not trade, which makes me wonder what else do these politicians have to do in Ukraine. And then the second reason we don't want Russia to invade Ukraine is to stop the spread of communism. Now, my argument, and I've made this in class before, and Keegan's heard me make this argument, is a way to end communism is like economic starvation, essentially. So don't consume any of their products, because Russia is a producing country. It produces products, and without a consumer to consume those products, they would collapse upon themselves.
Yeah.
Now, the EU and partially the US isn't willing to do that because Russia has so much oil, and the EU is doing all these green.
We cut ourselves off mainly from.
Well, the
Russia, right?
US has, but the Europe hasn't fully. They're still buying that Russian oil to some extent.
Not entirely. We haven't entirely cut ourselves off from Russian oil. I mean, I think we have it's weird. We have like a price limitation on like how much we can import for a certain cost.
Yeah.
So we can only import a certain amount. And I think that like price is slowly increasing to more and more and more. But but it's still worrisome that we even think about supporting them in that way, because like and then of course the current administration is like, that's why the gas prices are so high. The gas prices are so high because this nation that provides probably about 5 to 10% of our maybe way less actually. Sorry, that was a gross overestimate. Way less, probably around less than 5% of our oil. Because this country is now struggling to give us as much oil as they were previously, now we have inflated gas prices. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother discussion. But I think the fact of the matter is that the economic starvation is a good way of going about things. But as soon as you do that, then there are consequences towards either the American people or the European people. Yeah. No matter, like more specifically the European people, because they need that gas and they needed it, especially during last winter. They needed it, and they have that pipeline. I think that's from Russia.
Nord Stream.
Yeah, Nord Stream pipeline. And I don't know if that was turned off or anything. I think it was for
bombed or something.
I think the U.S. destroyed it.
Well, we don't know for sure.
Yeah. No, don't fact check me, YouTube.
Yeah. I'm not sure what happened in that. But is it operational again?
I don't think so.
Okay, no. Well, they're still getting a large amount of oil from Russia.
I don't want to sidetrack the conversation, but so the real question here is, should we help Ukraine? Right? Like, why or not?
Why not? I think we should help Ukraine.
Awkward pause.
I just heard somebody yell.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Anyway, I believe we should help you. Oh my gosh. I think we should help Ukraine to a certain extent. I think we've given them enough money, and I think there's different ways of supporting them, like not supporting Russia at all. That economic starvation forces Russia to pull out of Ukraine and stop its initiatives.
Okay, so we had a bit of a technical error when we realized
the
cameras wasn't recording.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of this video it is, but Richy's just gonna be kind of off to the side talking for something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll draw you can edit this in and post a stick figure Richy.
Yeah.
And
speaking.
Yeah. There's a crowd of happy people.
His mouth moves Yeah. Yeah, well, we were recording in 4K on my iPhone and it was 20 gigabytes, and we had 20 minutes. I was like, oh my gosh,
it's gonna look really good.
For the first 20 minutes, guys. You're gonna love it, all right? But then you're gonna be like, what the heck happened here? Changing camera angles a little bit.
So we were discussing Ukraine, and we're each gonna give our final opinion on how the issue can be resolved by either the current administration or how it can be resolved by the next administration. So I think that, I don't think it's going to happen, but the current administration should kind of act as first of all, stop funding Ukraine, because we've given so much money there already. I don't think I don't think the solution is more money thrown into this issue. I think the solution would be communication between both countries. I know Ukraine's not going to want to give up any land, but Ukraine's going to have to give up some land to stop this war, because Ukraine can't. If the U.S. stops its funding, Ukraine can't win this war, and we don't want Ukraine to win. I mean, we don't want Russia to win this war.
There has to be a compromise on land.
Right, there has to be a compromise at some point, And maybe sometime in the future, if we economically starve communist Russia, it will collapse and Ukraine can take back that land, and maybe more pro-American government will be put in place. But as of right now, some type of compromise needs to be said.
That or Putin dies.
Yeah, but even then, like the past.
Well, I would say that the next whoever's in power wouldn't want to continue his predecessor's war.
Yeah.
So like, cut off the head.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is against like every foreign policy.
Yeah.
No,
we're not
no
saying
U.S. government official is going to be like, organize a hit on Putin.
Yeah.
But it's a way to end the war.
That is his desire, though. Like, there are a lot of like polls that reporters did in Russia of like what was going on, whether or not they liked it or not. I mean, pretty much none of the Russian citizens agree with this.
Yeah.
Like, they don't agree with it. Even the soldiers are like not even fighting. Like, a lot of them will just be like I'm so sorry. Like, I've been sent here, like not on my own will, to kill like my fellow people to my east. And it's like they're
to their west.
They're of the same of the west, sorry. They're like of the same blood, you know? They're brothers, even some of them. So it's like it's a really tough situation that I think the government can't solve by just continuing to fund.
Right.
It definitely has to be an initiative taken by Ukraine to solve this. It can't be the United States forcing them to do anything. Only a matter of time.
I'm gonna take the unpopular opinion here and say that we've been doing well. So Ukraine.
And just like for the bad ideas, we're gonna get them and we're gonna throw them out the window.
Wait a minute, but he's a host.
Oh.
You should be thrown out.
Are you deposing me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Am I being ousted?
You are being ousted.
Okay, so Ukraine is doing well. I would argue that Ukraine is slowly winning. Putin can't back down.
Right.
So he needs an off-ramp.
Exactly.
That off-ramp would be seizing or demilitarizing Ukraine. Ukraine's not going to let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two options. Either Russia's military is non-existent, Ukraine bombs it out of existence with U.S. missiles, right? Or Putin gives up or dies or leaves office or whatever, right? So ironically, the solution is going to come from the Russians. It's just what we do that can twist their arm enough to make them do it.
Yeah.
So I think that bombing their military, right, like destroying their equipment, weakening them as a nation, will accomplish that end.
Yeah.
It'll take some time, and it might be time we don't have, right? Like, if China invades Taiwan tomorrow, can we keep funding Ukraine? No.
Right.
So do we start flying over Ukraine and shooting down Russian jets, right? Do we need to end this war as soon as possible?
We just can't be doing anything so harsh to the fact that we like cause another war out of it, you know? Like, if we were to do what you just said, like send our own
I would
fighter jets over there, it'd be
it'd
be a little bit of a problem.
Going and getting involved, but it needs to wrap up.
Yeah.
And if the U.S. lessens its aid, it's not going to wrap up.
Yeah.
True.
It's going to turn into a slog.
It's a good opinion.